When was the last time you heard anyone talk about Norton Motorcycles with the energy it used to create? Almost never. And that says everything. There was a time when this name commanded respect across the motorcycle world. A British icon that had survived 2 world wars, built bikes for Steve McQueen, and represented the pinnacle of engineering excellence. For decades, Norton felt like a guarantee of quality and performance. The momentum was real, and the brand rode it through multiple resurrections. But momentum only lasts if the people running it do not systematically steal from their own employees. By 2020, criminal investigations revealed pension fund theft, customer deposits vanished, and promised motorcycles never arrived. The name stayed familiar, but the trust disappeared forever. So today's question is simple. How did Norton rise from the ashes so many times? And what made this final betrayal the one that killed a 124-year legacy? To understand the collapse, you need to understand the empire. Norton wasn't just another motorcycle company. It was a British institution, founded in 1898 by James Lansdowne Norton in Birmingham. Initially focusing on bicycle components, Norton made the pivotal transition to motorcycles in 1902, at the very dawn of the motorized age. What truly separated Norton from countless other early manufacturers was their performance under pressure. During both world wars, Norton motorcycles became indispensable to the British military. These weren't luxury toys, they were workhorses that delivered messages through artillery fire, navigated mud-soaked battlefields, and kept running when everything else failed. This wartime service cemented a reputation for reliability that would follow Norton for decades. Racing became Norton's second battlefield. The company claimed victory in the inaugural Isle of Man TT race in 1907, establishing a tradition of racing excellence that would become the cornerstone of their brand identity. The Norton Manx, introduced in the 1930s, wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement of engineering superiority that dominated racetracks around the world. Beyond performance, Norton achieved something even more valuable: cultural relevance. When Steve McQueen, Hollywood's ultimate embodiment of cool, chose a Norton Commando as his personal ride, it spoke volumes. The company held royal warrants from the British monarchy, appeared in films, and graced magazine covers worldwide. Norton motorcycles weren't just purchased, they were coveted. At its core was a reputation for engineering excellence that few could match. The distinctive sound of a Norton engine was unmistakable. Enthusiasts could identify one by ear before it came into view. This wasn't marketing, it was mechanical reality, built on innovations that consistently pushed motorcycle design forward. Norton's story began in that small Birmingham workshop where James Lansdowne Norton had a vision that seems almost quaint today. Build motorcycles that could outperform anything on the road, not through marketing or styling, but through superior engineering. The breakthrough came early. Norton's 1907 Isle of Man TT victory stunned the motorcycle world. This wasn't just a race, it was the race, the ultimate test of machine and rider. Norton entered as underdogs and emerged as champions, demonstrating that their engineering philosophy could beat established competitors on the world's most demanding circuit. World War I could have destroyed Norton like so many other early manufacturers. Instead, it transformed the company. The British Army's adoption of Norton motorcycles provided something invaluable: scale and credibility. Thousands of machines served on the front lines, and thousands of soldiers experienced firsthand what made these motorcycles special. The post-war period brought an unexpected benefit. Those same soldiers who had relied on Norton motorcycles in combat returned home wanting their own. This created the first generation of devoted civilian customers, men who trusted Norton with their lives in war and wanted that same reliability in peace. Racing success followed racing success. Throughout the 1920s and the 1930s, Norton dominated the podium at the Isle of Man TT and other prestigious events. These were not just symbolic victories. They translated directly to consumer confidence. If Norton could win at the Isle of Man, surely they could handle your daily commute. Celebrity endorsements emerged organically, not through paid partnerships. Hollywood stars, racing legends, and even British royalty chose Norton motorcycles because they were genuinely superior. This created an aspirational positioning that competitors could not match. Norton was not just selling transportation, they were selling excellence. By the 1960s, Norton had achieved something most motorcycle manufacturers never manage. They owned both performance credibility and cultural cachet simultaneously. They were not just fast, they were cool. They were not just well-built, they were desirable. Market leadership followed naturally. Norton, along with Triumph and BSA, formed the big three of British motorcycle manufacturing. They controlled significant market share, not just in the UK but globally. Norton was not chasing competitors. They were the standard against which others were judged. The Steve McQueen connection deserves special attention. When the world's biggest movie star, a genuine motorcycle enthusiast and accomplished racer, chose a Norton Commando as his personal ride, it created incalculable brand value. His Norton appeared in films and photo shoots, cementing the company's cool factor in popular culture. The Royal Warrant represented something else entirely: official recognition as a supplier to the British royal family. This was not just prestige, it was the highest possible certification of quality. Norton motorcycles were literally fit for a king. Racing dominance continued with championship streaks in the Isle of Man TT and Formula 750 series. This was not nostalgia. It was contemporary proof that Norton was still building machines that serious riders chose when victory was the only acceptable outcome. Global export success brought Norton motorcycles to America, Europe, and Commonwealth countries. The company had successfully transformed from a British manufacturer to a truly international brand with universal appeal. But underneath this peak of success, a problem was brewing, one that would challenge everything Norton had built over 7 decades of excellence. The Japanese were coming, and they were about to rewrite the rules of motorcycle manufacturing. By the early 1970s, Norton faced an existential crisis. Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Suzuki arrived with motorcycles that fundamentally changed consumer expectations. These Japanese machines were not just affordable, they were reliable in ways British bikes had never been. They started every time, they rarely leaked oil, and their electrical systems actually worked in the rain. Quality control issues that had been forgiven in the name of character suddenly became unacceptable liabilities. Norton motorcycles, like most British bikes of the era, had developed a reputation for electrical problems, oil leaks, and mechanical quirks. What had once been accepted as personality was increasingly seen as poor manufacturing. Financial struggles followed inevitably as sales declined. Customers who might have overlooked reliability issues in the name of heritage now had alternatives that offered both performance and dependability. Norton's first bankruptcy in 1975 marked the end of an era and the beginning of a cycle that would define the next 4 decades. Ownership changes accelerated, creating instability and confusion. The company was sold first to Villiers, then to NVT, with each new owner promising restoration but delivering diminishing returns. These transitions created confusion about what Norton actually stood for and who was responsible for maintaining its legacy. Manufacturing quality suffered during these ownership transitions. Production was moved multiple times. Experienced workers were lost, and consistency became impossible to maintain. Each motorcycle that left the factory below standard damaged the reputation that had taken decades to build. The solution Norton chose would define the next 40 years. Constant resurrection attempts by new owners followed, each promising to restore the legend, but lacking either the resources or integrity to deliver on those promises. Norton's story after 1975 became a predictable cycle: new ownership, grand promises, brief hope, and inevitable disappointment. Each iteration began with genuine enthusiasm and ended with the same result: failure to recapture what made Norton special in the first place. Multiple resurrection attempts followed. Kenny Dreer attempted to revive Norton in 1988, focusing on limited production of modernized classics. Philippe Leroux tried again in 1998, securing rights to the name but struggling to translate that into viable production. Each promised to restore Norton to its former glory with modern technology, but neither achieved sustainable success. The rotary engine experiment represented Norton's most significant technical departure. Developing Wankel rotary engines for police motorcycles created a niche success, particularly with UK law enforcement, but the complexity and cost limited consumer appeal. These machines were engineering marvels, but they faced commercial challenges. A collector market focus emerged as a survival strategy. Limited production runs of classic designs could command premium prices from wealthy enthusiasts who valued exclusivity over practicality. This created revenue, but did little to reestablish Norton as a mainstream manufacturer. Stuart Garner's acquisition in 2008 appeared different. The British entrepreneur promised a complete renaissance, a modern factory at Donington Hall, classic designs updated with contemporary technology, and a return to racing prominence. The vision was compelling. Norton would rise again, not as a zombie brand trading on nostalgia, but as a genuine competitor in the premium motorcycle market. The customer deposit model became central to Garner's strategy. Norton required full payment upfront for custom-built motorcycles, creating immediate cash flow without the capital investment typically required for manufacturing. Customers accepted long wait times in exchange for the promise of owning a bespoke British icon. This strategy created working capital, but also massive future obligations that would eventually prove impossible to fulfill. Under Stuart Garner's ownership, Norton appeared to achieve the impossible, a genuine comeback story that attracted global attention and rekindled hope among the faithful. The visible signs of success were everywhere. The Donington Hall factory became the physical embodiment of Norton's renaissance. Garner established an impressive manufacturing facility, complete with a museum and visitor center showcasing Norton's heritage. The location, adjacent to Donington Park Racing Circuit, reinforced the brand's racing DNA. This was not a shed operation. It looked like a proper motorcycle manufacturer with serious intentions. A return to racing generated massive publicity. Norton re-entered Isle of Man TT competition with a factory team, connecting the modern company directly to its most glorious tradition. The racing was not just for show. The bikes were competitive, proving that modern Norton motorcycles could perform at the highest level. Celebrity endorsements followed naturally. High-profile customers included movie stars, musicians, and prominent motorcycle collectors, creating social media buzz and magazine coverage. These were not paid promotions, but genuine purchases by influential enthusiasts, lending authentic credibility to Norton's comeback. Premium pricing positioned Norton as a luxury brand competing with Ducati and BMW. Motorcycles priced between £15,000 and £30,000 established Norton not as a mass market player but as an exclusive manufacturer for discerning buyers who appreciated handcrafted quality. This pricing strategy created perceived value and exclusivity. Customer waiting lists grew impressively. Demand appeared strong, with enthusiasts willing to wait months or even years and pay substantial deposits for hand-built Norton motorcycles. These waiting lists created an impression of success and desirability that reinforced the brand's premium positioning. From the outside, Norton's resurrection looked complete. The company had successfully translated its heritage into a contemporary business model that generated excitement, commanded premium prices, and honored the brand's racing legacy. But beneath this carefully constructed facade lay a reality far removed from the image presented to the public. By 2019, the truth behind Norton's apparent success began to emerge. It was not a motorcycle renaissance, but a sophisticated fraud operation disguised as manufacturing. Customer complaints escalated to crisis levels. Buyers who had paid deposits years earlier, sometimes exceeding £20,000, still had not received motorcycles, despite repeated delivery promises. What initially seemed like production delays, typical of a small manufacturer, began to look suspiciously like a deliberate pattern of deception. An employee pension investigation delivered the first official red flag. A government probe revealed that £14 million in employee pension contributions had been diverted to company operations, instead of being properly invested for retirement. This was not just financial mismanagement, it was potential criminal activity affecting Norton's own workforce. The fiction of manufacturing capacity became impossible to ignore. Despite the impressive factory and constant media coverage, actual production numbers were far below what deposit sales suggested. Norton was taking money for motorcycles. It lacked the capability to produce in the quantities promised. Financial investigation results painted a devastating picture. Administrators discovered that customer deposits were not being held for motorcycle production as claimed, but were instead being used for daily operations and, in some cases, Garner's personal expenses. The company was effectively operating as a Ponzi scheme, using new customer deposits to fund minimal production of motorcycles for earlier buyers. Criminal charges followed inevitably. Stuart Garner faced fraud charges for systematic theft of employee pensions and misuse of customer funds. What had appeared to be a business revival story was revealed as an elaborate con that exploited Norton's heritage and the trust of its most devoted supporters. What exactly went wrong? Norton's final collapse came down to 3 critical failures that destroyed 124 years of brand equity almost overnight. First, systematic theft disguised as business strategy. Leadership treated customer deposits and employee pensions not as sacred trusts, but as personal funding sources. This was not a legitimate business model that failed. It was fraud from the beginning, designed to extract maximum cash while delivering minimum product. Second, manufacturing promises without manufacturing capability. The company sold motorcycles they could not build at scale, creating obligations they had no realistic path to fulfill. The gap between Garner's ambition and Norton's actual production capacity was so vast, failure was inevitable. Third, betrayal of the core constituency. Norton's most loyal customers and dedicated employees became victims of the fraud, destroying the relationship foundation essential for any brand recovery. These were not anonymous consumers. They were passionate advocates who had invested not just money, but emotional commitment in Norton's resurrection. The contrast with successful motorcycle resurrections is stark. Triumph, another British icon, rebuilt gradually under John Bloor's leadership, focusing first on reliable products before expanding. They invested in manufacturing infrastructure before taking customer money, not after. Indian Motorcycle, America's oldest motorcycle brand, focused on quality over quantity after being acquired by Polaris, ensuring each motorcycle reinforced rather than damaged the brand's reputation. Both Triumph and Indian respected customer trust above short-term cash flow. They understood that in the premium motorcycle market, integrity is not just a moral nicety, it is a business essential. Norton under Garner demonstrated the opposite approach, extracting maximum value from the brand's reputation without making the investments necessary to sustain it. December 2020 marked the final chapter. Norton Motorcycles entered administration for the last time, and Stuart Garner was sentenced to prison for pension fraud. A 124-year legacy ended, not with dignity, but with disgrace. The current state assessment is grim despite new ownership. The brand name was sold to Indian manufacturer TVS Motor Company, but the reputation damage appears irreversible. When customers associate a name not with quality, but with theft, no corporate revival can easily overcome that association. Customer losses totaled in the millions, with hundreds losing substantial deposits and little hope of recovery or motorcycle delivery. These were not just financial transactions. They represented dreams and aspirations, often life savings invested in what was supposed to be a prized possession. The employee impact extended beyond job losses to retirement savings. Workers who had dedicated their skills to rebuilding a British manufacturing icon lost not just their livelihoods, but their pensions and financial futures as pension funds were systematically plundered. The destruction of legacy is perhaps the most tragic aspect. In just a few years, 124 years of engineering excellence and cultural significance were erased by systematic fraud. Norton did not gradually fade into irrelevance. It was actively destroyed by those entrusted with its preservation. The real lesson is stark. Trust, built over more than a century, can be destroyed in months when leadership chooses theft over integrity. Norton did not fail because of market forces or competition. It failed because the people running it forgot that a brand's greatest asset is not its products. It is the trust of the people who believe in them. So here is my question to you. Can a legendary brand ever recover from systematic betrayal of its most loyal supporters? Or are some violations of trust simply forgivable? Norton's story proves heritage means nothing without integrity. The damage was not from competition or changing times. It was betrayal from within. 4 resurrections survived, but the 5th killed a legacy of 124 years when leaders stole from the very people who trusted them most. Next time you are drawn to a luxury brand's history and heritage, remember this: companies are not their marketing stories. They are the actions they take when nobody is looking, and the promises they keep when profits are on the line. What legendary brand do you think might be next to fall? Comment below and subscribe. The truth about luxury is just getting started.